Mr. Speaker, my question to the Minister of Energy and Resources asks, has the government granted any other permits for exploratory oil drilling in waters as deep as the Petrobras permit in the Raukumara Basin allows, and if so, when?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Acting Minister of Energy and Resources, it's difficult to give a yes or no answer to that question because the Petrobras permit in the Raukumara Basin covers water depths from a range from 250 to 2,500 metres. However, a number of permits have been granted to similar depths. In 2005-2006, 2 petroleum exploration permits in the Canterbury Basin were granted, parts of which cover water depths of 1,000 to 2,000 metres. In 2006, a permit was granted in deepwater Taranaki Basin, covering depths from approximately 500 to 1,700 metres. In 2007, 3 petroleum exploration permits in the Great South Basin were granted, covering depths from 500 metres to 1,700 metres. These were, of course, all granted by the previous government, which the members' parties supported.
David Clendon.
Supplementary. Can the Minister confirm that the depth of the Raukumara Basin is between 2,000 and 3,000 metres? Therefore, Petrobras' exploratory well would be up to 20 times deeper than the average offshore well in the Taranaki Basin.
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Acting Minister of Energy and Resources, in answer to this supplementary, I can confirm that the Raukumara Basin covers depths up to 3,000 metres, but that, as I said in the answer to the primary question, the permit covers areas of water depth ranging from 250 to 2,500 metres.
David Clendon.
Mr. Speaker. Given that the average well in Taranaki is some 150 metres and the deepest at 330 metres, what additional safety measures does the Minister think appropriate for Petrobras to safely drill at a depth between 2,000 and 3,000 metres?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Acting Minister of Energy and Resources, while that may be true, I point out again, as I said in answer to the primary question, a number of exploration permits have been granted to the greater depths by the previous government. Of course, the Maritime New Zealand organisation administers the Maritime Transport Act in relation to safety and marine protection standards and rules, and emergency maritime and marine protection rules apply, and operators must have the appropriate approvals from Maritime New Zealand before they drill exploratory wells.
David Clendon.
Supplementary. Mr. Speaker, does the Minister know that the catastrophic oil leak in the Gulf of Mexico occurred in an exploratory oil well at a depth of around 1,500 metres, roughly half the depth of the Raukumara Basin?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Acting Minister of Energy and Resources, yes. Of course, because that happened to one well doesn't apply, it happens to all. But again, I would point out the previous government has also issued permits for depths of those sort of ranges through both the Great South Basin, the deepwater Taranaki Basin and the Canterbury Basin, and that government, of course, was one that was supported by the Green Party.
The Honourable John Biscown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Supplementary to the Minister. Can she assure the House that the government will permit Petrobras to drill their exploratory well and will not bow to the demands of a few protesters as they did over Schedule 4?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Acting Minister of Energy and Resources, the government both confirms the rights of the permit holders to complete the requirements of their permit, but also of protesters to protest, and it's both of those rights are important. But I would point out that the process requires that the 2D and 3D work is done, and then that Petrobras has to fulfil the regulatory requirements before drilling an exploratory well.
David Clendon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, will the government require a substantial bond from Petrobras as insurance against the possibility of a catastrophic oil leak costing taxpayers billions of dollars?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Acting Minister of Energy and Resources, there are a number of requirements placed on operators before they can drill exploratory wells under the Maritime Transport Act, and Maritime New Zealand will ensure that those are met.
Point of order, David Clendon.
Mr Speaker, we're entirely aware of the maritime safety requirements around these matters. The question was, will the government require a financial bond?
I think the member makes a fair point. The question was very specific. Will the government require a bond prior to Petrobras being able to drill its exploratory well? And I think the Minister, insofar as he's able, should answer that. Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Acting Minister of Energy and Resources, we'd look to consider that at the time. There are a number of areas of work going on currently in terms of what's permitted in New Zealand's economic zone and expanded continental shelf, which both the Acting Minister of Energy and Resources, the Environment Minister and the Transport Minister will be involved.
The Honourable John Boscawen.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister. When is this government going to show the sense of urgency about jobs in the minerals and oil exploration sectors so that we see the sort of progress being enjoyed in Canada, where in Alberta the unemployment rate has tumbled, 70,000 jobs have been created last year alone, and oil sands companies are scrambling to hire increasingly scarce skilled labour?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Acting Minister of Energy and Resources, the member makes a very fair point because that energy exploration is a very strong export earner, not just for Alberta but in fact also for New Zealand. In fact, here in New Zealand last year brought in $2.1 billion in revenue and directly and indirectly employed over 7,000 people. So the member makes a fair point, but also the government will want to be focused all the way through on making sure that the required environmental safeguards are in place. And I'm sure that's what New Zealanders will want to see.
Point of order, the Honourable John Boscawen.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I seek leave of the House to table an extract from yesterday's Canadian newspaper, the Globe and Mail, talking about the growth in the oil and exploration sector in Alberta, where over 70,000 jobs were created last year.
Leave is sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is no objection. David Clendon. Supplementary question.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister. Will the government require Petrobras to have readily available an additional deepwater rig capable of drilling a relief well once exploratory drilling starts? And if not, why not?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Acting Minister of Energy and Resources, those matters would be addressed at the time. I would point out that the Maritime Pollution Response Service consists of a number of internationally respected experts, some of whom were involved in the spill management over in Florida, and they manage a team of around 400 local government and Maritime New Zealand responders. We have equipment and stores strategically located around New Zealand, but probably the key point for the member is the plan is regularly evaluated and re-evaluated to ensure it meets changing risk profiles. Should the pattern of oil exploration or production change, Maritime New Zealand would look to ensure that appropriate equipment is available to respond to that change.
David Clendon.
Mr Speaker. Does the Minister agree with Petrobras Head of New Zealand Operations, Mr Marco Toledo, who said, and I quote, "Guarantee of safety is not a word that exists in our industry," end quote?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Acting Minister of Energy and Resources, I don't feel that I should be responding to a quote as short as that because I have no idea in which the context it was given.
David Clendon.
Mr Speaker. Can the Minister name any environmentally or economically catastrophic event that has resulted from accidents involving wind, solar or geothermal electricity generators?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Acting Minister of Energy Resources, not off the top of my head, but I'm sure there have been times where wind generating and solar generating has had its risks.
Question number 7.